This episode I want to dedicate to people I know, on those whom I don't know, who are going through difficult, challenging times in their career.
You can be the most loyal, exceptional performer today, and then you're literally out the door tomorrow.
Why do you think we need to bring humanity back to work?
I don't believe it's safe for us to be humans in the workplace.
I asked Shereen to draw a mask that she had to put on in all her past corporate life.
I can't stay quiet, and if I do lose my job, then at least I've done it doing the right thing.
Those who have been 17 years in the company, their identity is that company, and now they've been let go. How can they cope with it? Hi guys, welcome to my new episode, Brandsthroughstories. I'd like to thank you so much for your support. Our channel is growing and it's all because of you. Really, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You probably know that this podcast is a therapeutic tool that helped me to regain my strength after I lost my business partner. And today I'm transforming this podcast into the therapeutic tool, inspirational and motivational platform for you guys. This episode I want to dedicate to all my friends or people I know, on those whom I don't know, who are going through difficult, challenging times in their career and their workplace. I see today my friends losing their jobs after being 20 years loyal to the same company, to one company. I see people in my neighborhood being so overwhelmed by work stress to the point that during conversation they cannot focus and they're constantly exhausted. I also meet amazing professionals who lost their jobs because of the corporate restructuring and now cannot find new positions because they're either very expensive or they're, overqualified, as they say. So no doubt we are going through very challenging times when it comes to our work, especially in corporate sector. And that's why I want this episode to be a little bit an optimistic moment for my friends, especially for those who are going through these difficult times, so they can see that they're not alone and they can actually open up and be themselves in the times when they need the support. So I was looking for the guests who can actually help me to explore this topic. And I needed someone who has a very in-depth experience in corporate world, someone who went through this journey herself, had challenges in corporate world and found the way to overcome them. And a great woman who is going through her own transformational journey. So please welcome my guest today, Shereen Qutob. Shereen is a talent management and cultural transformation director. She is also a clarity coach, and she is a mental health and corporate wellness advocate. And the most important, she is a beautiful mother of 2 lovely girls and an inspiring woman. Thank you so much, Shereen, for joining me today and discussing this you could see how emotional I am about it, this challenging or interesting topic of today.
Thank you, Nina. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for this intro, and yeah, I could not agree more. It's time we talk about this. Yeah.
And that's why I want to ask you with the first question. Yeah, do you feel? Just from my own experience, I've never seen so many people being either unemployed, professionals. I'm talking about really real professionals that over 20 years of experience, either unemployed or on the edge of losing their jobs. They know that probably tomorrow it's going to be some restructuring and they might lose it, or being so stressed out that they don't even remember their names.
Yeah.
Do you agree that it's a different time today?
It is a different time where maybe, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago or more, people used to go into a job and, you know, hope to have like a long-term career with one organization. We are not in that world anymore. In you know, like the times that we're in, I would say post 2020, where, you know, the entire world shifted. And right now, like we're literally witnessing volatility, regionally, geopolitical challenges, you know, all sorts of, you know, challenges that make our work life a lot more complicated and complex right now. The level of stress everyone is dealing with, and we're on top of all of that, we're wanting to continue business as usual and not address any of these things. So it's not the same world.
It's
It's
not the
not.
same world,
No.
yeah. And I think I've started noticing it also post 2020,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now it's like accelerating, I think.
It is, and I feel part of it is also, you know, the way we've been brought up and programmed, whether it's in school and society, and that the job or your job is how your value is determined in the world,
Yeah.
and so there's this attachment to, you know, what my title is, how much I'm earning, you know, what brands or organizations I support and work for, whereas I feel, you know, so I see there's two groups of people. There's the people that are completely in that world and that will be affected a lot harder when they lose. Like if someone was 20 years and that's their identity and they've lost their job, like that is like that's, you know, they've entirely shaken who they are. And then you have, on the other hand, another group of people who are now going through this self exploration of, well, who am I? Because all of this is uncertain. Nothing is guaranteed. You know, no one knows what tomorrow brings. You can be the most loyal, you know, exceptional performer today, and then you're literally out the door tomorrow. So what does that mean for you? And I see some people starting to have those conversations with themselves.
And I have a feeling also it impacts that are people who are the most loyal one, right? The one
Yeah.
that truly saw their career, put everything on the table, and they're being impacted
It's
during this restructuring, so called.
it's a hard it's really hard because I know people personally, like in my circle of network and friends and people I know who it hit them so hard because, and then the word they keep saying is, I gave it my all. I used to give my everything. I was the first person in. I used to be in at 7 a.m. I leave in the evening. And some of them had health challenges because of, you know, how much like they, you know, were committed to their jobs, and then they were like completely dismissed or forgotten as if, and that's it. You're just a number. And now they're struggling with, well, who am I? Who is this person? What are my skills? What do I do? And it's a tough realization if you've not spent the time, you know, like actually diving into the layers of who you are. And I would say sometimes that happens intentionally, and sometimes life pushes you in that direction. And I think for me, life like humbled me in a lot of ways and forced me to start having those like internal conversations with myself.
And that's what I'd like to ask you. What's your journey now? What is that transformational journey that you're going through?
Yeah, so I would say my current transformation right now is maybe the 2.0, let's say, version. So if I go back 12 years ago, so that was when my first kind of trigger that started this whole process of like self inquiry, like who is Shereen? Like, so 12, well, now 13 years ago, because my older daughter will turn 13 day after tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
So we will have a teenager in the house. And I was just a new mom. I was working full time. At that point in time, I was the primary breadwinner in the family, and what I didn't realize was I was under so much stress that I was causing. I started to develop like all sorts of mental health and panic attacks and all sorts of things that led me to be actually in the emergency room almost every weekend, and that set me off on this journey of this can't be it. Like, this can't be my life. You know, they tell you like you grow up, you go to school, you go get a job, you get married, you have kids, but then it's like, no, this can't be it. And that's where I started to really dive into understanding the connection between the mind and the body, and how I was causing all of that stress myself. And I know that triggers people sometimes, because they'll tell me, what do you mean I'm causing this to myself? It's my boss, it's the
Yeah, you always want
situation,
to
it's
blame.
always someone else. What I've learned throughout the journey is no one can make you feel anything without your permission. And that's really, really powerful as a lesson. And I would say the last 10 years for me has been really understanding that I'm in control. Like, I choose what I allow into my energy, into my mind, into my thoughts, other people's opinions or perceptions. And I had to focus on my own, physical health, mental health, my fitness, my wellness, my nutrition. Because if, just like they tell you in an airplane, if you don't put your oxygen mask on first, you're not going to be able to help someone else. And especially after I became a single parent, like, I can't help my two daughters if I'm drowning. So I would say that was the key focus of that part of the transformation. The current focus for me now is switching from, the corporate life, let's say, and in a structured way, to now exploring more entrepreneurial, more creative avenues, more, other ways to get my work out into the world. And yeah, that's why I'm here.
It's exciting journey.
It is. I am.
Be prepared for bumps on the road.
You know what? I think, and I think that's the key. Is it's not having just that fairy tale sort of, belief that it's always going to be rainbows and unicorns, but knowing that I managed to get through what I got through over the last 12 years, I'm like, okay, I think we've built some resilience that we can handle this. Yeah.
I think being resilient and optimism are two very important ingredients in entrepreneurial journey that can help you stay on your path. I think optimism, which I think you are. You look like you are very optimistic.
Do you know what I mean, Nina? Honestly, if you met me 12 years ago, you would not say that.
Really?
Because people who know me and who are very close to me, I was a very different person, extremely stressed, extremely just serious. I was a very, very serious person. And I was always waiting for something wrong to happen, waiting for I don't know, a stressful situation. Like, I was just expecting like the worst that could happen all the time. My cortisol was at an all-time high. So no wonder all of that like chemical reactions was happening in my body. So, and people meet me now and they're like, oh, you're so, optimistic. You give off this very positive vibes and like,
Smile.
and you smile and you wear like colorful things, but that wasn't who I was. And I truly believed that version of me was who I was, like very serious. If you would open my cupboard or closet, like it was always gray, dark blue, like navy blue, black. Those were the only colors I owned. I never like wore bright colors. I never, and I was just living in this gloom bubble, and I didn't realize I was subconsciously doing that to myself. So I would say, now I look back on that version of myself with a lot of compassion, with a lot of kindness. But I realized there wasn't a lot of love I had for myself back then. And I was just struggling to survive, and thinking that's how I'm going to do it, Yeah.
I really love your mission, and we will get back also into the your journey. Okay. But to take it a little bit back to the time that 12 years ago, I really love your vision. You're saying that you're bringing back the humanity. You're bringing humanity back to the workforce, one conversation at a time. Why do you think we need to bring humanity back to work? What happened to humanity?
I think we've lost our way. I really do. I think we've lost our way in a sense that every conversation is more transactional. Like, I need something from you. You need to do this for me. And we interact just for the sake of that transaction, and then that's it. And then you're just a number, an Excel sheet, a name in an organization. But the truth is, as human beings, we're way more than what we do in our job titles and what we do at work. Like we just said, we're mothers and sisters and friends and daughters, and we play so many roles. And when you get to know people in your workplace and the people that you interact with, you get to know their stories, and you get to understand like their fears and their motivations and what drives them. And and at the end of the day, everyone is coming to make a better life for themselves and their families and the people that they look after. So no one really wakes up in the morning and just comes in and decides to not be a great person, But at the same time, unfortunately, we come into our workplaces with all of our baggage. Like all of us are carrying backpacks with our own our own problems, our own wounds from our past, things we haven't processed, and unfortunately we end up then dumping all of that on each other. And then it just becomes then easier for us to deal with the workplace as this very clinical environment where I don't need to deal with you as a human because it's business and I need a result out of this. And then once we clock out, then I can, go back to being my human self. So what I've noticed, at least over the last 20 something years of corporate life, is it really looks to me, and I see it, where people walk in the door and it's as if they put on this armor, this like shield to cover up their humanness, because it's not, I don't believe it's safe for us to be humans in the workplace. We can say it is, but I don't think we're fully safe to be as human as possible.
And I think that's why I want you to show me this thing that you draw. I asked Shereen to draw so she in her story, she's saying that she was wearing a corporate mask for quite some time, and then she took it off to become herself. So I wanted to see, I asked her to draw a mask that she had to put on in her past corporate life. Can you show this the mask and talk us? What is the mask?
Right, here we go.
Oh.
Okay. All right, so my drawing skills are not that.
No, they're excellent. It's so scary.
It is scary.
It's so scary. So talk us through. So that was the mask that you used to wear.
Yeah, so I would say a big part of that mask was me not speaking my truth. So like my mouth is covered up. I wasn't speaking my truth. I was in this vortex of just staying quiet, not to rock the boat, so I don't lose my job. So again, it was about, let's not, you don't need to rock the boat. You don't need to cause, like any uncomfortable conversations. You're the primary financial provider.
So you need the money that you
need
have.
the money for your kids, for your family. And I believed that was the best way that for me to be. And what I didn't realize, and I think that's what we, and this is why it's so important, why I'm so focused on making work more human, because I ended up, because I wasn't speaking my truth, my body forced me to start speaking my truth. And that's what I was saying, is sometimes it happens by choice and sometimes life humbles you and forces you. And I was forced. I was forced through, dealing with the panic attacks, and then ending up, there were times where I had a heart monitor attached to me for days underneath my blazer, in my work suit. But my boss never knew. My colleagues never knew, because I was high functioning. I was in the office. I was doing things. I was, and then I would
just a little bit of a device,
Exactly.
Just a device.
It's
just a heart monitor.
Just tracking my heartbeats, making sure I'm not
I still have.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then over time I realized that I can't. It felt like this mask I could not carry on, and that's where I really needed to just be fully myself.
Do you think the environment wanted you to wear this mask, or it was self-created?
I would say it was a combination of both. Mm-hmm. So at the time, I was working in a very male-dominated environment. oil and gas sector. Here I was, a female in an HR space, working with a lot of male engineers in a very harsh environment. And that was the time when I had just had my firstborn daughter. And again, it's this sense of, I'm now a mom. My credibility was at stake because it was like, oh, are you going to be as effective on your job anymore because now you're a mother? And I heard these comments, and interestingly, they came from women who were mothers themselves. So exactly.
How is that even, where's the support?
100 exactly. So I think part of it was me worrying how my credibility in the workplace would come across. Would it be seen as weakness if I was vulnerable, if I shared my story, if I honestly said I was struggling? And let's not forget 12 plus years ago, mental health wasn't the topic that we talk about so openly now. Like now it's not, people don't shy away from talking about, like, if they go to therapy or they, have other sort of, coping mechanisms. But at that time it was a very lonely place. And yeah, I think it was a combination of the environment and also me worrying if I spoke up, that means weakness, and that means, you're not fit to do your job.
Was there like a specific moment in your career where you were sitting and the situation was, I don't know, was absurd or was strange, that you decided to take it off and keep and show everyone your beautiful face?
So I would say, to me, the most maybe human moment I had more recently would be last year, October. And
is that when you took it off?
I think that's when I fully took it off.
Really?
I've been taking it or taking layers of the mask off since 2015, I would say. But more authentically, I would say since last year. And more specifically, it was, October of last year. And as we all know, the world took a very different turn. And for me, it came, on the back of witnessing, such horrors and such horrific things happening. And in the workplace at that time, you had colleagues and people just, planning a Halloween party or talking about events they were going to, and just no acknowledgement that there was literally, like human suffering literally happening 3 hours away from us. And I would sit and spend time with some colleagues who had, family members that were impacted, and it really affected me. And I wasn't afraid. At that point, I was like, no, I'm going to show my emotions at work. I actually did have a breakdown. I was hugging one of my colleagues and I just started, breaking down in tears. And I just stormed into the senior executive's office, knocked the door, and just, shared a piece of my mind saying, this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. We have human beings here that are dealing with grief and suffering, and we're talking about Halloween events, and we're talking about, random things. And in that moment, I wasn't afraid of losing my job, because it felt to me like it was so much more important to address that. And I knew that that was the right thing to do, and not, wear that mask for fear of, losing a job. Yeah.
It's really, so what do you think that power was that, as I'm believing probably in your values, right?
Yeah.
Your values that you...
Because it was so absurd, I think that, it was just beyond understand. Like, how can you not realize? Like, we're talking about like 2 weeks into, a very horrific series of, events that are going on, and you're worried about a Halloween party, while you have team members who are grieving and so scared of sharing that they're grieving because they're worried they're going to lose their jobs. And that's when I thought, no, I can't, I can't stay quiet. And if I do lose my job, then at least, I've done it, like doing the right thing.
It's very interesting that, because so my experience with corporate life was 2 years. So I'm this kind of entrepreneur, transition to corporate life for 2 years, and then transition for the rest of my life, hopefully, as entrepreneur. Yeah. I remember I entered the big, fancy corporate office, and I think everyone had the masks on, but I didn't realize at that moment.
Yeah.
like, who are this? It was only after some times like, who are these people? What is this what is going on?
It's
I couldn't survive.
no, and
I
it's
was,
sad. It's very because I know people personally, and they tell me, they say, look, we can't be who we are. It's they feel it's unsafe to fully be themselves and to fully speak their truth, and they acknowledge 100% that yes, when I walk into this building or this environment, I put on this persona, this mask. This is how I speak. This is how I behave. These are the things I will say. These are the things I won't say. And at the end of the month, I'll get my paycheck, and then it's like repeat that
and then I
cycle.
have a profile
Yeah,
on some of the social media that how successful I am, right?
yeah,
With all my diplomas and so on.
exactly.
But it's so sad in the fact that what you see on social media, because you could see all these posts, well-being and balance and your purpose and your values,
Yes.
and you feel like everyone is so spiritual today,
Yeah.
taking care of themselves, successful. But then the reality is, you see these people suffering
Yeah.
really mentally.
Absolutely. And for me, the proof is in how you live your life. So it's like you can put all you want on social media, you can post all you want. But if you are unhappy in your real day-to-day life with your family members, if your relationship with your children is strained, with your partner, with your, friends, that to me is the true measure of whether or not you're successful in life. Because I mean, social media, yeah, that's, people put on this beautiful like perception, but that's not the true measure.
But do you think the leaders today of these big companies, even not big, just any company,
Yeah.
do you think what are their expectations from their employees? What are they looking for? This or your beautiful face? What do they want?
I think at the end of the day, they want results. They want people to get the job done. I mean, and I can't generalize all
Yeah, of
leaders or
course.
all
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or organizations. But I genuinely don't believe real conversations are happening in organizations. So I don't think these leaders necessarily have people around them as advisors or close confidants, let's say, that actually speak to them about these real issues. So in a sense, maybe it's the people surrounding those leaders or giving them the rosy picture, saying everything's
Right.
fine, everyone's fine. No, these are not issues you need to worry about. These are short-term things; they can be solved. So it's an interesting one because I really believe like even leadership as a whole topic, the whole conversation around how we develop leaders, how we work with leaders, that needs a complete overhaul and transformation. But that's
I think they also, yeah, I think themselves are going through a very
yes,
different time now,
yeah,
right? And their own challenges.
yeah,
I know from your story also that you found this magic in everyday
yeah,
moment, right? And this
yeah,
is what helped you to continue and thrive and be optimistic, that magic. People who are today struggling in their in their career, going to the office, putting the mask on, afraid of the next corporate restructuring. And we just heard big layoffs in Germany happening, like thousands of people in one of the companies that have never happened in the history, right? So it's more and more coming. We know that it's going to come even more people going to lose their jobs, and they know that. How can they find that magic? Like where to start to look for that magic, to be still happy, optimistic, and see the brighter future.
yeah, and it the saying. Usually the saying goes, it's like the people that have really been through like some of the darkest times are the ones that end up appreciating that and finding and looking for that magic. So I would say for me, it really came down to basics, like basic things like, breathing. Like I woke up today, my bed, gratitude for having a bed, having a home. My daughters are well. Because and this is where, my journey with clarity coaching and understanding how the mind is so powerful. Like we do not understand as a humanity, like collectively humans, we really underestimate the power of the mind, and we use that same power of the mind to spin negative scenarios, and we feed it all this negativity, and that of course, impacts us. So that same power that we have can also be that power that we give it, like positive, like affirmations or positive, words. Now, the magic comes from remembering that you're not in control. And I think that to me was the biggest freeing concept, because as someone who was extremely serious, extremely, stressed, it was because I was trying to control everything in my life. And when things went out of control in many ways, I realized that I'm not in control. And actually what's in control is now, whether you're religious or not, or spiritual, there is a higher power, a higher intelligence, like animating this world. Like the fact that leaves fall at a certain season, the fact that the sun rises and the sun sets every single day, like whatever's going on in your life, you can count on that. So those to me are the moments of magic. And when I started to tune into those small little day-to-day things, on my Instagram, I tend to post around, don't forget to look up. So I remind people, like, even if you're walking around, you're stressed, just look up, because sometimes when you look up and then there's a beautiful skyline, or there's a beautiful, like, tree, and clouds, and it's just that moment. Like, don't forget those moments. And then I even got it like tattooed as well, because that to me is that reminder
What
of
does it say?
Believe in magic. And funnily enough, when I got that, it started to show up more in my life, because it was like this focus, this affirmation of look for it. It's there.
It's there.
It's there. Yeah.
So if you're feeling very, very difficult times, you're going through difficult times at work, don't start looking for magic at work. Start from the moment you open your eyes.
Yeah.
It's all that journey during the day, that time during the day.
Absolutely. And maybe, and I've seen like situations where maybe that workplace is extremely stressful, or there's some toxicity there. And maybe that person needs to eventually leave. But maybe right now you need to cope and find ways to cope in that environment. So how can you strengthen your own mental health, your physical health, your spirituality, And again, spirituality, I think we give it a fluffy name, and we make it into this very complex thing. It's just about being in tune with your soul, with your spirit, with your breath, like those moments where you actually slow down in the morning and you just breathe, and reconnect to your breath. Like that itself, it's giving you that pause to remember that you are way bigger than what's happening at work, and I think, starting there, and then just remembering that the job is an aspect of what you do. It is not who you are. And
I'd like to take then on the second question. So second group of people, those who have been 20 years, 17 years in the company, completely aligned to that company. Their identity is that company. And now they've been, let go because of this strategic, very important restructuring. How can they? I have a really good friend of mine going through this. I think she thought that she would retire from there. She started from the university all the way, and then just one day,
yeah.
How can they cope with this? Like, what to do? Because it's really, a lot of people are just suffering from that.
It is, and I think to me it's around them finding a sense of purpose that is way bigger than themselves, and I have a dear friend of mine who went on later in her career to become, an actor. So she draws, and she's an artist, and she's written journals, and she's published books now later, like in her 50s and 60s. And to me, it's finding that sense of purpose. And that's not going to come from, continuing the spiral of loss, oh my gosh, who am I, why did this happen to me? That victim loop is not going to get us anywhere. But starting to think, well, I've got all of this amazing experience. I've impacted people's lives in certain ways, but there must have been things that I wanted to do as well throughout my career.
Yeah.
What are they? Starting to like be a detective, like start to investigate, like what were your passions? What were your things? And it's never too late. Like it's never too late. I mean, I'm setting off on, a new path, a new journey in my mid 40s, and, and yeah, people can look at me and go, oh, you should have figured out your life by now. Shouldn't you have figured out everything? And I just, it's never too late. Yeah.
Who figured out his or her life? I just want to see that person. If you know that person, please
let us know.
Yeah, I'd love to have him or her as my guest. Someone who really figured it all out.
But those are the people that post on
it's
social
our
media.
Neighbors that talk about behind your back. Yes,
exactly.
Yes,
yeah. And then they post on social media telling you how amazing their life is.
If you were actually going back to 12 years ago, what would have and with all the experience that you have now, what would you change? Or is there something that, you thought, oh, wow, I wish I knew that 12 years ago. I could have done this, and I would have been like this.
Yeah. The main one for me, and this is something I tell my girls like almost every day, not take life so seriously. Now, there can be serious things in life, but I don't need to take myself so seriously all the time. And I missed out. And that's my biggest regret, is because I missed out on a big chunk of, especially my older daughter's childhood, because I was in this like very negative headspace. And then I went on, a journey with like medication for some time that completely numbed me out. So I wasn't there, So that would be like my biggest, regret, I guess, and biggest lesson was just be present, and not everything needs to be so serious. And finding the joy in those little everyday moments. Yeah.
I'd like to ask now, since you brought the the topic of kids,
Yes.
it's something that I am really cool. I have 2 kids also. They're still very small, but I already, as responsible mother, thinking about their future and education. And I'm completely puzzled as what kind of education to give them today. And I think we agreed with my husband that at the end of the day, it's not really education. It's more the skills that we need to provide them. You being in the talent management space, I'd like them to be those talents if they want to go to the corporate world. I want them to be those talents that company want to retain. How can I develop talents in them? What kind of skills shall I give them for the future that they will be taking to those corporations if they wish to? How I want them to be successful in the future.
And honestly, this is something that I similarly, when I look at my 2 girls, the key thing that I'm instilling in both of them is critical thinking.
Critical thinking.
Yes. And it's question everything. Question everything. Question me. Even like just because I'm your mom doesn't mean I have all the answers. And I think that, especially now, especially in this day and age, having in the younger children or a generation that's going to come that will question, like, why are we doing things this way? Like, who says this is the right way to do things?
God, I wouldn't want to have such team members in my I hope my team is not going
but I tell them it's difficult being your mom right now because you keep questioning me, but we do need a world where people are innovating and they're questioning, like, how can we improve on things. So I would say critical thinking and a strong sense of self, a strong so that like even now amongst their friends and peers, like, we make sure that they really understand that it's not just because everyone else is doing something and it's trendy and it's, doesn't mean that you have to also do it if that's not what you want to do, and it's really understanding, like, who are they, their own, like preferences. So a strong sense of self, because then that means that you won't get swayed by, different people's opinions, agendas. You're better adaptive, in a workplace. And yeah.
Do do you think it will be important for our kids to know that the company is not just there for money, but they have a bigger purpose? Because it's a big conversation. Now, I believe in that. There's a lot of skeptical opinions there that is just,
Yeah, and I truly believe the way we're heading, where we're going, is people will start making those decisions based on where they feel organizations are able to match a sense of purpose and something, you're working towards something more meaningful. So it's not just I'm clocking in, clocking out, like that kind of old mindset. So I truly believe the companies that do have a strong vision, a mission, a purpose, and they're creating something that's impacting the world will end up attracting our children, hopefully, that want to make a difference, because that's the next generation that's going to want to take things forward.
Yeah, it's such a big change, because for me, to me, it was always security, having a job.
Yes.
I was always thinking, thank God I have work.
Yeah.
Thank God I have projects. Thank God my to-do list is never ending, because actually I'm scared of empty to-do lists.
Yeah.
And now I have new generation of my colleagues and so on. They look at it completely different. They actually want to finish. The long to-do list scares them. And it like leads them to burn out feeling.
Yeah, so there's that. And it's also because there's, that sense of, well, I have things that are outside of my work that are also meaningful for me and I want to cultivate. So how can I do that if my to-do list is so long that I don't have time?
Have that, I think,
yeah,
right?
I don't think so.
Did you have anything to do, after
no. And that's why I was burnt out. So
I think I didn't have anything at all. But then I was entrepreneurial, so maybe that's
And I think, it's just, again, it's a different time. It's a different generation. This essence of, we can't keep ignoring the human spirit anymore in the workplace. I don't think that's even possible at this stage, because with everything that we're witnessing, with everything that's happening, the way the world is evolving, we need each other even more. Like humans need humans. Like we didn't evolve over all of these centuries on our own. Like we need connection. We need, that sense of, community. And I really believe like the workplaces of the future, the more connected they are and the more, you have those networks within and people feel supported and they feel like I'm not just doing a job for a paycheck, but I'm growing here. My skills are, growing. As a human, people care about me and my interests and, my colleagues actually care about me as a human being. Yeah, I think those workplaces will really thrive, as we go forward.
How realistic is to create the workplace like that kind of culture? Because from my experience in a lot of companies, culture or let's start with values and beliefs, usually end up in the drawer.
Yeah, or on the wall.
Yeah, that's the best case scenario, framed on the wall.
Yeah.
And then usually they stay around quality, there's accountability, transparency, something like just the words.
The typical words.
Yeah.
And now how easy is it? I would say it's definitely not an easy thing. Because that's where true leadership comes in. And I would say, the leaders of an organization are the ones that are going to set the tone for whether or not those values are just words or whether they actually live them. Do they make decisions based on the values? And to me, like I see that come into play, especially when difficult things are happening. If you have to make difficult decisions and you say you're a human-centered organization or like you put people first, and yes, maybe you have to make difficult decisions like restructuring, but then it's how you do that. Like if you do it in a human way, in a compassionate way, in a respectful way, that makes a world of difference. Then, of course, it's a transaction and you're just like, processing paperwork and, like dealing with it as just a very dry process. So it's not easy. But I really believe that the leaders and organizations that give it the real attention are the ones that will come out on top, because we're in an age again of social media. All it takes is one post that goes viral, one scandal online, and then that's your reputation as well as an employer or as an organization or as a brand. Yeah,
very easy. I think there's Glassdoor or something like that.
Exactly.
You just go there, ask the question about any company, and here you go. You could see a lot of insider
Absolutely.
interesting stories.
Yeah.
I was part of something that I think that was really the end of my corporate career. So it was 2009. Do you remember that difficult times in
Yes.
Dubai?
The financial
Yeah,
crisis. Yeah.
not just Dubai, everywhere.
Yeah.
And the company decided to really, they had directives to actually
Yeah.
shrink, to restructure. And the way they've done it was beautifully. They actually were calling one by one each employee and announcing them if they're gonna stay or leave.
Ah.
And
Okay.
it was done in the middle of the office in the glass meeting room.
Okay.
And no one. So before you enter, you don't know what you're gonna hear.
Right. Okay.
And my desk was right opposite the meeting room.
Wow.
And the only good thing, I knew that the problem I'm gonna say because I was closer to clients, business development, and so.
Yeah.
But so I was okay, but it was a it's horrible experience because
Yeah.
you see people sitting there and then just crying or being happy on this. It's like a lottery thing.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
terrible experience. And I think that time, right, whatever values you put out there, there's no humanity in that kind of.
And I think, I mean, especially with things like downsizing or restructuring, I mean, it's never going to be easy. It's never going to be easy. But again, it's how you look after that person during the process and even after. So, do people check in on you? Do people still remember you exist? For example, like, if someone was to be, like separating from an organization, do their former colleagues still know and check in on them or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. I know that you're also creating something,
Right.
right? That is going to be, I don't know, your therapeutic or motivational, inspirational platform, your own podcast, right? Tell us a little bit about it.
So this has like been on my mind for years and years. I would say at least the last 5 years. And I've been on other people's podcasts or interviewed in different interviews. And at some point I thought, well, all of these reflections and all of these things that I'm sharing and all of these conversations need to be housed somewhere. And so, so now I am, this is something that I'm considering taking forward. And
So I think, guys, I'd like us to take this as a Shereen's commitment because the most difficult thing in podcast is being consistent and really do it on the regular basis. So she told me and promised that she's gonna do it. I think she's an excellent, beautiful woman that needs to be out there with her story and her guest story. So please promise us that you're gonna launch it. And then you're going to stick to that for a very, very long time.
Well, now that you've literally put me on the spot, literally. Yes. So this is the moment of truth. So do I
You just
say? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So those that know me quite well know that there's a phrase that I always say, which is the juggle is real, and to me that encompasses everything that's going on in my life, whether it's juggling my career, my daughters, being a single parent, trying to figure out what it means to find myself again, maybe find love again, and start maybe an entrepreneurial journey. So all of that juggle, and also not just sharing my story, but then finding other people out there who are also doing that incredible balancing act of, just integrating their whole selves in this world and bringing those stories to life. And reminding everyone of the magic in every day, and just
Beautiful.
sprinkling some of that magic out to the world.
Beautiful. We're going to support you on this journey, and wherever you need, just let us know. I think we share the same values and a lot of similarities in the background. So I'm so happy that the born of this, the journeys of your podcast starts from my podcast. And I really hope it's going to quickly get to over 1 million subscribers and just grow from there.
That would be incredible. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you very much. I think it was it was so beautiful. It was so authentic. It was so genuine. And I truly want, like I've said from the beginning, my friends, people that I know and that whom I don't know, to just listen to this episode and then just realize that you're not alone there. Because I
Never.
know some of us, they're putting this mask and they're trying to stay, oh, I'm so positive and still successful and plays these roles where the world is changing and it's okay to be authentic and to be yourself, right? And it's okay to take this beautiful, ugly thing off.
Let's rip it off. Yeah. Yes.
Do it.
Yeah. So yeah.
I wanted to say let's burn it, but then I was worried.
Safety
let's
first.
just.
We'll just rip it off. Yeah.
Excellent. Let's end on this amazing phrase. Let's just end this this podcast, and we wish you a lot of success, right, and a lot of magic in your everyday. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yay! Oh, it was so good. Thank you so much.
Thank
the
you.
only thing I was doing was listening. What happened to me today? I didn't see. I was so much in your eyes that I was losing my microphone. Great. Oh, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
was good.